All right, Proverbs 24. Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. With their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief. So those two verses go together. First, don't be envious of them. And we got a big problem in our world today. Because you got rap music. You got so-called cartoons on television. And in most all of them, you got the villains that are praised in front of the kids. The kids are being taught to be envious of evil men. And I even hear adults talking about these hard rock and rap singers. Love that music. Then you need to control your brain. You don't love garbage. You don't let yourself learn to love garbage, ungodly stuff. What do they talk about in the rap? Raping women. And all such things. Well, how do you like that? Well, we're supposed to control our minds. And we don't like that stuff. Be not thou envious against evil men, and neither desire to be with them. With their heart is what they do. They study destruction. And if you look at the titles of those rock albums and rap albums and all that, it's destruction. And with their lips they talk of mischief. Through wisdom is a house builded. There ain't no wisdom, verse 1, 2. Through wisdom is a house builded. And that's not talking about necessarily a mansion. That's talking about a house that is a home and it's built through wisdom, the wisdom of God. Amen. And by understanding it is established. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. See, that's not necessarily silver and gold and money. Pleasant and precious riches. It's not talking about filthy lucre. A wise man is strong. I'm going to include that with the woman. A wise woman is strong. Yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. You increase wisdom, increase mental strength. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in multitude of counselors there is safety. By wise counsel make your war. Well, that could be talking about outright war. Depends on who's facing what. But wise counsel is how you make any kind of a attack on anything. You don't attempt anything of any size that you don't get wise counsel. Even somebody says they want to start a business. Well, you better find out how it goes before you ever embark on it. Find out what's going on. And that's the thing. So you may call that war anything you attempt to do, and you get wise counsel. And in multitude of counsels there is safety. Doesn't mean you can't make up your own mind, but you must talk to many wise counselors, and you weigh their counsel. Wisdom is too high for a fool. Can't climb that high. He opens not his mouth in the gate. Well, the gate's where the wise counsel is. If you remember, Lot sat in the gate, and that's where the city elders were. He that deviseth to do evil shall be called a mischievous person. Well, that's a little bit tame for our vocabulary, a mischievous person. We think of just a little kid being mischievous. But that really isn't for little kids. He that devises to do evil shall be called actually an evil person. You know, I've been hearing this a lot. With all of these murder trials, and it seems like the ones that do the worst, multiple murders and assaults and violent assaults and everything, all night, he's really sick. You know, that's what they can't think of anything worse to say about him, but he's a sick person. I've even heard cops do it, police do that. Well, if you're sick, you take a pill and get well. That's what sick is. If you're sick, you go to a doctor. Isn't that what we do? I mean, that's a sick person, that's what they do. Or you go to a drugstore, or you get somebody to get you some medicine, or what? You're sick, you start doing something to get well. Well, now how do you get a murderer well? See, and the problem with that is, oh, well, he's sick, he needs to go to a mental institute. No, if he committed cold-blooded murder, he needs to go to a hangman's noose.
That's right.
He's not sick. He's a criminal. He's a murderer. He's evil. But he's bad. Yeah, he's bad. No, but he's really sick, boy. That like sick is the worst thing you can say about it. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Have you noticed it? The thought of foolishness is sin. You got the 10 Commandments up there, and that's what sin is, a transgression of the law. But you never think about just a foolish thought being sin, but it is. Didn't we have it in here that the plowing of the wicked is sin? Well, plowing is certainly a neutral thing. That's a good old down-home work, and then honest work, man out there plowing a field. How can that be sin? It's sin because he's plowing with no thought of God. So the thought of foolishness is sin. Now, who knows your foolish thoughts? If you keep your mouth shut, nobody does. You ever have a thought that you're just so thankful you didn't tell anybody what it was? Have you ever done that? Boy, I have. I don't know, more often than not. I mean, I've had a lot of them. And just so thankful I kept my mouth shut. So, if the thought of foolishness is sin, if you don't open your mouth, it's still sin.
Absolutely.
But it's against God. A scorner is not a good person. If thou faint in the day of adversity, adversity is a bad day, a day that goes against you. It's a rough day. And if you faint, it's because your strength is small. It's because you're a weak person. We're going to have days of adversity. Some have many more than others, but we all have them sometimes. But if you faint, if you don't stand up to it, it's because your strength is small. If thou forbear, that means to draw back from it, to deliver them that are drawn unto death, and those that are ready to be slain, if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not, doth not he that pondereth the heart considereth it? And he that keepeth thy soul, doth not he know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? Now let's see what a problem is here. Somebody needs to be rescued. They're about to die. Somebody's ready to be killed. And you forbear, you hold back. And then you say, well, I didn't know anything about it. Which is a lie. Oh, I didn't know anything about it. Well, doth not he that pondereth the heart consider it? Who ponders the heart? Man doesn't. God Almighty, the omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent one does. He knows your heart. He knows whether you're telling the truth or not. And that's where it matters. And shall not he render to every man according to his works? Is it saying that'll come back on you? He said in Ecclesiastes, cast thy bread on the waters, and after many days it'll return to you. That's good. But now this is the opposite. Those other works, not just casting the bread, but those kind of works, they'll come back to you. So, my son, eat thou honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb, which is sweet to thy taste. Well, that's, nowadays, a lot of people don't eat honey. Anybody here never eat honey? Have we all eaten honey? All of us, kids and all, we eat honey? Okay. We appreciate honey. If you've eaten some of it, you've eaten it. But now, a lot of people never eat it. They're used to Little Debbie and stuff like that, and that's their sweetening. What it used to be, that was, if you had any sweetening, it was going to come from a honeycomb. Because most people don't have sugar. Have you ever looked into antique furniture? I like to look at it. It's good. I like it. The old sugar chest. You get them made out of Kentucky cherry, come from the 1700s. You're going to pay a fortune for them if you get one. But the sugar chest used to all have a lock on it. Did you notice that? Every one of them had a lock on it. You know why? Because sugar was so precious, so expensive, and so rare, it was a special occasion when she got into the sugar chest, and she sure didn't want the youngins getting in there and getting it. Or anybody else, because that was very rare to get sugar. If you don't have supplies coming in from Florida and from Louisiana, where are you going to get it? Or from Montana, sugar cane and sugar beets, where are you going to get your sugar? You live in Booneville, Kentucky. Where are you going to get your sugar at? There ain't one place. You either get where they make molasses, and that molasses got about to be used in something. They're not real sweet. Or else you got to get somebody that's got bees and get you some honey. That's about the only place you can get it. So it used to be a precious commodity. So he says, eat it because it is good, it is sweet. But by the same token, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto thy soul, or unto thy life. Just as you eat sugar, eat honey, because it is sweet. It's good for you too. So you don't want to do like my poor mother did when she was a kid. She got a hold of some honey and she didn't know when to quit eating it. And she founded herself on it, and she never did like it after that. Never did as an adult. She never did like it. She ate too much of it, got sick on it. You have to know when to cut it off. She didn't. But anyway, we never had real honey in my house because of that reason. But now, we'd every now and then we'd stop at, they used to have Stuckey's. Used to have one up Georgetown on 25. And we'd go in there and sometimes and get that orange honey, orange blossom honey. It was kind of whipped honey. And we'd get that, but we never got real, pure honey. Anyway, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto thy soul. There you get it. Wisdom of God, and it's that sweet to your soul, to your life. When thou hast found it, then there shall be a reward, and thy expectation shall not be cut off, because that wisdom will direct your expectations to the proper channels. Lay not wait, O wicked man. Wicked one, that's italics. Doesn't mean just men, it means men and women. Lay not wait, O wicked one, against the dwelling of the righteous. Spoil not his resting place. And you know what? There's a lot of it going on now. Home invasions. It happens a lot. It may not right in your neighborhood, and I hope it doesn't. But home invasions happen a lot, and generally the people in that home get killed, get murdered. They think you've got something in that house, they'll go after it. Well, we've got judges and law and politicians that say, well, some places, if it's not over $1,000, they don't even try to prosecute it. When you got broke in your garage, gosh, so they didn't go after it, did they? You did, but they didn't. It's not worth their time. So it's all right if somebody steals $1,000 from you. They won't go after it. Or maybe even more. They let it go. And it'll get worse than that before it's all over. Lay not wait, O wicked one, against the dwelling of the righteous. Spoil not his resting place. Maybe just a little consolation. But those that do such things, whether they're prosecuted or not, they ultimately will be prosecuted by the judge of the universe. For a just man, now that's a man who's been justified. And we're only justified by faith through the Lord Jesus Christ. For a just man falleth 7 times. Now, is that literally 7? Well, 7 means 7. But it's used symbolically here. And it's used symbolically as a complete number. So 7 times would mean the whole ball of wax. As many times as he falls. A just man falleth 7 times and rises up again. But the wicked shall fall into mischief. And again, there's that word mischief that doesn't sound very bad. But these are terms that have devolved, and they don't mean much now, but they did back then. You fall into mischief. Let's see, where could he fall into mischief? Well, it could be in hell. So, rejoice not when thine enemy falleth, and let not thine heart be glad when he stumbleth. Now, here's something we need to learn as believers. Do we ever have enemies? Well, of course we do. Of course we have enemies. Do we make them? Not necessarily. We can make enemies. I mean, it's not hard to make an enemy. You can do it. But when you take a stand on anything, especially anything biblical, godly, when you take a stand, as soon as you make that stand, you're going to come up with some enemies. On your job, at school, in your neighborhood, even amongst your family. I don't know. I have an idea most of us have already experienced that. So, an enemy or enemies might be there, not really through your making, but just in the process of living for the Lord. But we don't want to treat those people as enemies ourselves. And we don't want to rejoice when anything bad happens to them. You say, well, the Lord's judging them. You certainly don't want to rejoice at that, not because they're being judged. What you must do at that time is say, thank God for your grace that I'm not being judged. If I'm not guilty of sins, any sins, some sins I'm not guilty of. And there are some sins I'm not guilty of. And I have to admit there's some sins I am and have been guilty of. But those I haven't been guilty of, I'm not going to lead a crusade for everybody to get judged that's guilty of them. That's what he's talking about. Let not rejoice not when thine enemy falleth, and let not thine heart be glad when he stumbles. If the Lord's taking care of him, you better sit back in fear. When one child's getting a whipping, what would happen to the others if they're standing right there and said, ah, ha, ha, ha? Anybody ever have that experience? Then they get one, don't they? You want to back off that kind of stuff. When somebody's getting punished or getting in trouble, don't rejoice over it. Lest the Lord see it, and it displease him, and he turn away his wrath from him. That's a good way to get him out of it, is to rejoice over it. And it may get you into it. Fret not thyself because of evil men, neither be thou envious at the wicked. Well, you remember David said he couldn't figure out why the righteous suffer and the wicked prosper. Said he couldn't figure it out till he went into the house of God, and then he remembered their end and my end. If they're wicked, they're not saved. Regardless of what they have in this life, they're going to be in the lake of fire for eternity. That's not a happy thought. And even if you were like Lazarus, and Lazarus was a pretty pitiful person. How many bad days did Lazarus have? I don't know that he ever had one good day. How could you have a good day? You're sitting on the streets begging. You're full of sores. You got nothing, no medicine, got no help. Nobody wants anything to do with you. How many good days could you have in that kind of condition? But John Bunyan had a wonderful message on Luke 16, the rich man and Lazarus. If you ever get a chance to, have you ever read it? He starts out and he says, the rich man and Lazarus, something like this, he says, nobody would want to be Lazarus. Who in the world would want to be sitting on a street corner, begging crumbs, full of sores and dogs licking your sores? Who would want to be that? Or who would want to be the rich man that fared sumptuously every day? Now, which one would you want? Now, this is all my words, but that's the tenor of what he's talking about. Who would choose to be the rich man, and who would choose to be Lazarus? Why, we'd all choose that rich man if we didn't know the rest of the story or the account. All right, so fret not thyself because of evil ones, and neither be thou envious at the wicked. It just wouldn't do to be envious of the rich man at any point in his life. So, well, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He never had a bad day. But you see, the problem is the rich man died. And Lazarus died. But the rich man lifted up his eyes in hell, being in torments. And Lazarus was comforted. The angels carried him into Abraham's bosom, and he was comforted. How long afterwards? Immediately. Momentarily. Now, I mean momentarily, like I said it. Wasn't no time passed. Now, those telephone calls, when they say a person, an agent will be with you momentarily, and 2 hours pass and you're still waiting on them, they're lying. They are. Momentarily, my foot. But now, when I say momentarily with the rich man and Lazarus, momentarily, the rich man died, and in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and Lazarus was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. Momentarily, there wasn't any time lapse at all. Well, so don't envy the rich man at any point in his life. For there shall be no reward to the evil man or evil one, and the candle of the wicked shall be put out. Any light. What is outer darkness? Where there ain't no light. My son, fear thou the Lord and the king. We have to have some fear for the law, for governmental powers. And meddle not with them that are given to change. I'm not going to apply that. I'm not going to do it. I promise I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to apply that to anything presently cooking. I won't take advantage of a situation like that. But meddle not with them that are given to change. I kind of, I'm not going to do it. Governmental change. Our Constitution says that whenever our government ceases to uphold, it's in words different from this, but when they cease to uphold the Constitution and become detrimental to the population, we've got an obligation to change our government. But I don't want that done for everything. That needs to be few and far between. And the same thing, of course, with religion. We're not looking for any new doctrine. So you need to listen to this. No, I'll tell you, be real honest about it. When I see a book, pick up a book, number one, when I see who's written it, that means whether I'm just going to put it back down or not. If I see who's published it, I listened on the television early morning, I don't know, not too awful long ago. And I knew who it was. I could tell by the way they're talking. But I listened to them for a while just to see what they're saying. And sure enough, it was Seventh-day Adventist. It didn't take them long. They got into the law and to the horrible people that meet on Sunday. I knew who they were. But if you see something put out by the Watchtower Tract Society, put it in your fire. Studies in the scriptures, that could be either Jehovah's false witness or so-called Mary Baker Eddy, Christian Science. You know, you got to get rid of that stuff. I'm not looking for any change of doctrine. Now, I'll have to say, I don't know everything about the second coming of Christ. And one thing I do know absolutely, I don't know anybody that does know. How about that? I can rest assured. One time I got in a big way of preaching at a conference. There were quite a few preachers there, and I'm walking them, talking, I've been studying, and been calling everybody that don't agree with them heretics. They were pre-trib, you know. I said, you know, boys, I've been studying this thing long enough, and I don't know when the Lord's coming. But you know what? I know one thing for sure. You don't know either. And that's the way I did it, just like that. You may think you do, but you don't. Anyway. So, meddle not with them that are given to change. If it's new, it's not true. If it's true, it's not new. Remember that. You see, if we don't have the scriptures right here, that the true Bible didn't come out till Westcott and Hort, that's what they say. Oh, you've got to get the NIV, or you've got the EEB or EAB or whatever the EB is. Something. All of those things. Oh, that's the best one. Really? Are you saying that our brothers and sisters 2,000 years ago and all the way through didn't have the Bible till you came along? Don't believe it. Anyway, for those that are given to change, their calamities shall rise suddenly. And who knoweth the ruin of them both? How bad can it be? Who knows? These things also belong to the wise. It is not good to have respect of persons in judgment. Well, you know, we've got a whole system today that has nothing but respect of persons in judgment. Now, they're all demonstrating over that boy that just got freed from all, I think it was total of 6 charges. They had him in Kenosha, Wisconsin, And now they're demonstrating all over the country these Black Lives Matter. I'd like for somebody to tell me what that means. There's some kind of a big church right next door, across the street from Boone Tavern in Brea. And they got a great big sign in their front yard, Black Lives Matter. I'd like for one of them just to tell me what that means. I don't think they've got sense enough to tell me what it means. It just that they're against everything that's right and for everything that's wrong. What in the world can that mean, Black Lives Matter? Anyway. What was his name, the football star? That cut his girlfriend's head off and killed that other guy? Orange juice. O.J. Simpson. Now, he got off with that because he was black. Nobody can deny that. Even the people involved in it couldn't deny it. So there's a murderer run free for all these years. Well, he got in on his own, got back in prison. But he's a criminal, obviously. Should have been executed. This boy, they go through a legal trial, and the prosecution got caught withholding information, witness tampering, and many other things, and they didn't get charged with it. But even with all that, that jury heard all. Now everybody talks like they know what it is. You know who heard what that jury heard? Just a handful of people. And 12 people on that jury determined that that boy was not guilty on any one of those charges. And they still wanted, that criminal Jerry Nadler ought to send him back to New York where he belongs. Bunch of idiots vote for that thing. He's going to try to get the federal government to bring charges on him now. This other system works. Not if an idiot like that can get it overturned. Well, anyway. It is not good to have respect of persons in judgment. He that saith unto the wicked, thou art righteous. What has Joe Biden said? What do they say to all these riots? Stores burned down, people killed. No charges whatsoever. And these district attorneys in these big cities turning all these rapists and murderers loose. Him shall the people curse, and nations shall abhor him. Can't come fast enough for me. Anyway, God help us to eat that